Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the ACHA Power Play. We are live here on 12 Ounce Sports and Dingo TV channel 217. Of course, you can also catch us on our YouTube channel, 12 Ounce Sports on YouTube. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a great show planned for you here tonight. The Road to St. Louis 2025. I know it sounds crazy, but we're almost only 4.5 months to go before we hit the road to St. Louis for the national tournament. Should be a fun time as all 5 divisions are well underway now as they look to get everything going on their road to 2025. 3 in the men's, 2 in the women's. If you're not familiar with the ACHA, we've got, again, we'll have 84 teams at the national tournament in St. Louis coming up in 2025. Welcome to the show, everybody. Tonight, we're going to be joined at 7:15 by Regan Cleeves. He is the play-by-play voice for Central Michigan, the Chippewa Hockey Network. They do a fantastic job. I invite you to check out their broadcasts on YouTube. They do such great work. Reagan also was a member of the ACHA Nationals broadcast team in 2024, earlier this year in St. Louis. We're going to kind of talk, we're going to reminisce a little bit about his experience doing that, some of the great games that he was able to call, and we'll talk about some of the teams, the defending champions, who we may look for. But I want to pick his brain, especially on Division III. That's the spotlight. That's who he covers, and he does the games for Central Michigan. As I mentioned, they are a member of the Michigan Collegiate Hockey Conference, which is in Division III, the premier ACHA conference. The state of Michigan has won, I think, 15 out of the last 16 Division III national championships in the ACHA, and they're looking to keep that crown strong. They had 3 out of the 4 Final Four teams last year with Grand Valley, Calvin, and Lawrence Tech, the eventual winner. Missouri was able to crash the party as the only non-MCHC team, but in the end, it was Lawrence Tech over Grand Valley. 2 great games in the semifinals where Lawrence Tech beat Calvin, or I beg your pardon, Grand Valley beat Calvin 3-2, as did Lawrence Tech beat Missouri, and then those 2 teams squared off, and again, it was Lawrence Tech winning their first championship. So we will have Reagan on a little bit in a little while from now, probably in about 13 minutes or so. We'll talk a little ACHA hockey with him. Also, we're going to take a look tonight at the rankings, the men's Division I and the women's Division I. Those are out right now. We had a couple of changes and some interesting teams, and we've powerhouses. They're always there in the top 25 in the men's and the women's teams. The usual suspects are there as well. Teams like Maryland and Minot State and Michigan Dearborn. So we'll keep an eye on that as well as the men's top 25. We got a new number 1 team this week, and it's Adrian College. So we'll run through that. Also, we're going to go through some of the games that took place last weekend, and it's crazy. We've got such a lineup this coming weekend of games in the women's Division I and the men's D1 to talk about, and D3 as well. So we got a lot to talk about. We've got the leaders, the goal-scoring leaders in the country. We're going to run through those for you here tonight, and just talk a little bit in general about, again, what's going on in the ACHA. We've got a big showcase coming up in the Chicago area in about a month from now, right before Thanksgiving, where they call it the Big Ten Showcase, but it showcases some of the big teams in Division II, Division III, and Division I that are in the Big Ten schools like Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, Illinois, who's always a perennial team. So we're going to take a look at that. And then they've also got a Division I showdown for men's teams in Chicago in that showcase, the Capper Showcase. And, that's one of the beautiful things about the ACHA now. We're seeing more of these showcases, more teams getting together on a weekend and playing each other, ranked teams. And, we notice it. Well, we'll just give you a quick look right now. We'll take a look at it with the women's schedule in D1. We've got this weekend, we've got Arizona State. We all know the run that they had. They're 6th ranked this year right now. They're taking on number 2 Maryville, and then they're also going to take on number 8 Lindenwood and number 4 McKendree. Battle tested. We talked with their head coach. We had her on the show a couple of weeks ago. That's what they want. Lindsay Ellis told us that's going to make them strong. They want to take that next step. We all know the run that the Lady Sun Devils had in that women's tournament taking Liberty right to the limit going into overtime. And so we know that they want to get to that next step. And this is one of the best ways to do it. And Jamestown taking on McKendree, Adrian, and Liberty. You talk about two powerhouses. That's what's going on in women's D1. So some great hockey this weekend. If you get a chance to watch any of their school sites, Liberty or Adrian, I highly recommend you check out these games. If you like women's hockey, if you like hockey in general, this is where you got to go. And there's some fantastic games. And we talk about the men's side. We've got some big matchups locally here in the Michigan area. We got a big matchup with Adrian in Ohio with a home and home. So yeah, that's just kind of a tip of the iceberg of what's going on in the ACHA. So a lot to talk about tonight. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to run through the goal scorers, the leaders in all 5 of the divisions right here in the ACHA. And again, coming up in a little bit, we're going to talk to Regan Cleeves, one of the play-by-play broadcasters of the Nationals, and he is the lead voice for the Central Michigan Chippewas team. So don't go anywhere. You're watching the ACHA Power Play. It's here live right now on 12 Ounce Sports and Dingo TV, Channel 217.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
And again, I can't stress that enough, how easy it is for you to get tickets to go to some of these sporting events. There's an NFL game you want to go to this weekend, or a National Hockey League game, NCAA college, whatever. Ticket or 12ouncesports.com/tickets. It's that simple. We are a ticket broker. And what that means is we're not going to charge you the exorbitant fees that you see on some of those secondary sites. And again, if the, college football game this weekend, whatever, NHL, go to 12ouncesports.com/tickets and even use the promo code 12ounce. You may get even a little better discount on that. So that's 12ouncesports.com/tickets. All right, let's get to, we talked about it. What we like to do here on the show, we do this regularly, is we like to spotlight who the leading scorers are in all 5 of the divisions, kind of give them, a little bit of sunshine here. So while we've got time, let's do that. Let's go to the women's division. Let's start out in Division 1. Leading the country right now in scoring is Morgan LaValle from the University of Utah. The Lady Utes off to a good start. She's got 15 points in 8 games, 6 goals, and 9 assists. Her teammate Hallie Hansen is right behind her with 12 points, 6 goals, and 6 helpers. Haley Beckett, a very familiar name in the Nationals last year from Maryville. She's up there with 12 points, along with Sonia Sharman and Loki Antonio from Lindenwood University, one of the top teams in Division 2. They're ranked 8th in the country right now. She's got 13 points. Another name very familiar. We saw her in the national tournament, the defending national champion Adrian Bulldogs, Tess McCarroll. She's got 4 goals and 7 helpers. Madison Teague with 12 points as well for Lindenwood. Also for Midland, Callie McGuire. There's another familiar name. She's got 6 goals and 4 assists with 10 points. Aria Groot from McKendree, on with Jana Barden from McKendree with 10 points apiece. And Hallie Smith from Utah with 9. Abigail Jeffers from McKendree with 9 points. Just to name some of the leading scorers. Julia Lindahl with 8 points for the University of Michigan. We've mentioned Julia's name for a lot of years here on the power play. She's right up there amongst the league leaders. And taking a quick look at the goaltending leaders in the women's Division 1. Let's see if I can do that. The magic of live radio. We've got Paige Hunt from McKendree. She's played 2 games. She hasn't given up a goal yet, along with Victoria Hahn from the University of Michigan Dearborn. That's a name we're very familiar with as well, as she was a very a standout goalie in the national tournament. So those are the goalies that are leading the way in women's D1. And men's D1, Brad Thornton, he's on top of the charts right now for the University of Jamestown, the 5th-ranked Jimmies. He's got 10 goals and 10 assists in 11 games for Jamestown. William Patterson's Austin Teets, 15 goals in the regular season already in 9 games. Dylan Tamidich from Cleary, he's got 8 goals and 9 assists. I've seen him. Christoph Petrula from Calvin, he's right up there as well. 7 goals, 10 assists in 6 games. Cameron Gaffney from Syracuse, Zach Molstead from Waldorf, Jordan Berensky from the University of Jamestown. There's another familiar name. The Jimmies, again, a household name when it comes to the national tournament. He's got 16 points. Joe Gronholtz from the University of Mary, another team very familiar with postseason play. He's got 16 points. Ryan Pachuski from Temple with 16 points. Then you go down to Alex Sneff from the University of Mary and Dylan Gajewski from Adrian College, the defending men's Division I champion. They've got 15 points. Bailey Bird from Michigan Dearborn. Seems like he's been at Dearborn for a while. He's got 15 points. And Bryce Garber leading Northwood with 14 points. Northwood's an interesting story. They're at the D1 level now. They've made the hop from D3 to D1, and they're off to a fast start right now. They've got an 8-1 record, so that's a good start for them, and he's leading the way for them with 14 points. And Craig Dawson, again, from Mary with 14 points. Darius Moxie from Jamestown. So Jamestown putting the puck in the net early, as they've had some big games. They played Ohio last weekend and were victorious. So Jamestown, they're also looking to take that next step at the Division I tournament. We can talk about that for a little bit. Now, we like to keep you, again, kind of up to speed on how it works. Now, with the men's Division I tournament, it's win or go home. There's no pool play that you see at the D2 and the D3 level for the men and the D2 level for the women. 24 teams, the top 8 get the automatic bye to the second round. And that's huge. I know in talking with the coaches at Calvin and some of the other teams that are looking to get to that next step, they don't have to play that opening day because, but again, you could one game and you're out. That's the hard part. That's the sudden death part about the D1 teams. And you get some of these teams like Jamestown who have a good run through the regular season. They get that 5th spot or that 4th spot. Maybe get a bad first period, bad 10 minutes. Sometimes that's all it takes. You give up a couple of penalties, boom, you're in a 2-0 hole. Unfortunately, that's how it works with the D1 tournament. So, yeah, a little crazy with that. But some of these guys getting off to a good start for Jamestown, and as well as some of the other teams in the Division I. And see if we can bring up some of the goalie stats right now in Division I. No, I guess not. We'll just stick with the skaters here tonight at the level, and I'll have a better read for the goalies here, coming up next week on our next program here on the ACHA Power Play. All right, let's go to the D2 scoring leaders for the men. Zev Glass from New Mexico, 10 goals, 14 assists, 24 points. He's tied with his teammate Joshua Hurd with 24 points rather. Then you've got Gavin Paduzzi with 22, along with Connor Kazmarek from Loyola Marymount. Matisse Hawthorne as well with 22 points. So they're off to fast starts for Loyola Marymount out west, out in California. You've got Jacob Pearson with 21 points from North Dakota State. Peyton Lund as well from Eastern Washington with 21 points. Dawson Speth from Montana State at 20, along with Thomas Castle from Concordia of Wisconsin. Keep an eye on Castle. They had a great team. They made it to the regional finals in the Central Regional last year. Got knocked out right in overtime. What a great finish that was in that game. It was just a fun tournament. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Drew Fisher from St. Thomas with 18 points. Grady Credian from Roger Williams University with 17 to lead the way there. And Cole Schneider from Rider University with 17 points. There's some of the goal scorers at the Division I, Division II, the men and the women's Division I. And we'll take a look at some of those a little bit later on as we roll on here on the ACHA Power Play. Now, I mentioned we're going to be here every week. We'll be back with another live show in 2 weeks, every other week until December. Then we're going to go every week when we get closer to the national tournament. We talk about this first part. It's crazy. The games are a little more spread out until you get to the Christmas break, and then when you get back from break, it's go time because you've got 2 months left, and that's it of the regular season. Then actually not even that, especially at the D2 level, you start thinking about regionals, the regional tournaments right at the end of February. And that's where some of these teams now, again, how it works at the D2 level, you get the top 2 teams in each region get the automatic berth to the playoffs. And then after that, it's 3 through 14. They play in a regional 3-day tournament where it's winner go home. It's single elimination. 3 through 6 get the automatic bye into the second round. But after that, it's you go into the national tournament. So, or you go in and it's single elimination. So, hey, let's do this. Let's go to our guest line right now. Real excited to bring in a fellow member of the ACHA Nationals crew that was there in St. Louis. He did just a wonderful job with the D2 national tournament, but he's one of the main voices at the D3 level, especially here in the state of Michigan. CMU broadcaster and a good friend, Regan Cleeves. Regan, thanks for taking time out tonight, brother. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, Lou. How about you?
I am fantastic. Hey, I'm talking ACHA hockey right now, man. The road to St. Louis is on its way, and can't wait to get down there. But we still have a fun year of hockey coming up.
Yeah, we do, and it's already starting to shape up into a pretty good season. A lot of teams underway, and long season ahead of us.
So I want, before we get into the M3, talking about the Michigan Collegiate Hockey Conference and whatnot, let's take a little reminiscent tour back to St. Louis back in March. The atmosphere there with all the teams, I think it's up to 84 teams or 80 teams that are there now for the national tournament in all 5 divisions. And you had the opportunity to call some fantastic D2 games in that national tournament. It was such a breathtaking performance by all those teams.
Yeah, indeed. And I think the D2 tournament, as it was last year, has always been a little bit more of a crazy tournament than, say, the M1 or M3 bracket, because every team has fought their way to get there. Every team has to go through regionals minus the top, I think minus the top 8 seeds. And it proved some crazy matchups. Like last year, Montana State didn't get out of their pool as the number 1 team in the West. You had a couple of other number 1 seeds not make it, but I think just the way that tournament is structured, it breeds some crazy hockey.
Oh, it does. And then, even at the D3 level, it's amazing. What really fascinates me, Regan, and you had an opportunity to experience this too, is you get to that day 3 of pool play. You get into overtime. Then if it's tied, you may have to pull your goaltender because of the tiebreakers, and it makes for just amazing. The drama of it all is so much fun.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about having the tournament in such a short, compacted time, is that it's almost every day you get an exciting game, you get a nail biter, you get just you always have some sort of storylines to pick from, and especially with M3, how dominant the MCHC has been in the last couple of years. Well, heck, for the last decade and a half, but it's been it's always fun to see who you think will be the team that, like, outside the MCHC, that makes some noise, like we saw Mizzou do last year.
Exactly. It makes for some highlights too. And I don't think, I had the opportunity to call some great games, but I got to tell you, you and Devin calling that comeback win where I think it was Miami was down 5-2 or something ridiculous like that, and they scored 5 goals. I mean, that's something you don't get to see every day either.
No, it was incredible. That was back day 2 of the tournament. Miami was taking on Keene State, and
boy,
that was something incredible. Miami was down at one point in that third period. They were down 5-2 with 3 minutes left. Then Keene State took a 5-minute major at the 16:57 mark, and Miami proceeded to score 5 consecutive power play goals to to basically knock Keene State out of the tournament. And lo and behold, Miami would take that momentum all the way to the national championship, where they would fall in yet another great game with Indiana.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you definitely had some great games to call. And you mentioned the MCHC dominance, and again at the D3 final, the Final Four, 3 out of the 4 teams, from the state of Michigan. It seems like that every year. You mentioned it. It's been like 15 years. 15 out of the last 16 a Michigan school has won at the D3 level. I mean, I'm going to ask you. I ask everybody, and I don't get it. Nobody really knows why, but why do you think Michigan has such a stranglehold with that division?
Well, I think especially the last couple of years, it's kind of changed from this, but I do think in at least 4 or 5 years ago, it was because it was a straight top 16 ranking, especially in the last couple of years, because you get so many Michigan teams in that top 16, because over the last 15 years, that strength of schedule has been built up to the point where you have the Michigan games being rated a little bit higher just because the MCHC is dominated. But I also think that there's just that, like, it's the hockey culture of Michigan, right? You think when you think hockey states, you think Michigan, you think Minnesota, maybe a little bit New York or Massachusetts, but it's really Michigan and Minnesota that dominated it. And especially in M3, there are a ton of teams in the state of Michigan, and that just how high the competition level is really lends itself to postseason success.
Well, and I had Dave Kurtz on earlier this year, and I asked him, I said, there are more teams coming back into D3. Are they looking to go towards the regional format? And I don't think they're going to. And I know, well, I know a couple of coaches here in Michigan that are glad to hear that. One being, one, Chris Van Timmeren, but they're going to D1. But, why? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Lawrence Tech's coach. Oh, for God's sakes.
Ken Gaffney.
Ken Gaffney. Back in the like in 2018 and 19, Hope College, they probably had the best team in the country. And I know they won it all in 2018, but like the year before that, they lost in double overtime. And then in 2019 in the regionals, they lost again in double overtime or something ridiculous. And that's where I think having the strength of schedule and not doing those regionals, I think, is an advantage. And I don't know what your feeling is on regional tournaments as a broadcaster. I think it's great because we get to see great hockey, but
yeah. I mean, I think the regional tournaments have their benefits, especially with how big Division II is. It forces those teams to play and to earn their way into the national tournament. But even if you get that bye, because the top 2 teams in each region don't make it to don't have to participate in the regional tournament, they get the automatic bye to the national tournament. Last year we saw that backfire on multiple schools, where they would have all that extra prep time, but they hadn't played in 2 weeks come time to battle it out in St. Louis. And I really think that hurt a couple teams. And so it has that competition aspect. And I really think you don't always end up getting the best teams in the national tournament, but that's okay, because you get the teams that are the hottest. Because you've, like last year, think about Iowa getting knocked out by Minnesota. I believe it was Minnesota Crookstown at Patterson Ice Center in that region. That throws a bunch of chaos. The team that made the national championship back in Boston is out.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes the D2 tournament so fun, is that it is just wildly unpredictable.
Do you think those teams that get the bye, do you think they come in overconfident, or just they come in tight, a little more pressure on them?
I mean, I think a little bit is that pressure. You're the number 1 seed. You're the number 2 seed. So you kind of you definitely have that pressure put on you. But heck, Lindenwood, you had Lindenwood, Northeastern, Florida Gulf Coast, and Montana State, and 2 of those teams didn't even make it out of the pool play.
Yeah.
So, like, I certainly do think that part of it is that they come in maybe not overconfident, just a little tight. But I do think that the other teams that have played more recently and have the legs coming in, I do think it's a lot easier for them to hold on to that momentum and keep going.
We're joined by Regan Cleeves. He is the play-by-play voice of the Central Michigan Chippewas. Now, let me make sure I got this right. I don't want to get anybody in trouble because I know what happened in the past. The Chippewa Hockey Network, is that right?
It's the CMU Club Hockey Network.
Okay, very good. Okay, all right, we got that correct. And I know you do a lot of great work with the MCHC. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like we mentioned when you first came on, it is the premier conference in all of men's D3. I think I looked at the standings. Oakland seems to be off to a big start. We all know their history. I mean, back 8-9 years ago, gosh, it's been that long already. They were the team in the state of Michigan. If you wanted to win a national tournament or get there, you had to go through them. And it's kind of cool to see them back doing well at the beginning of the year anyways.
Yeah, especially since they had 2 straight years where they really struggled at the MCHC level, and even during the regular season outside of that. And then last year was kind of bittersweet for them because they had one of their best years since 2019-20, and then they get knocked out of the national tournament as the number 15 seed because of the auto bids.
Yeah.
And so I know they're just itching to get back to the national tournament, and they're off to a good start. Look, 8 games played, 7-1. They got 14 points. And obviously, the MCHC East hasn't started division play yet. The West has had a couple of games thus far, but Oakland's again, they're playing in a tough division. You got Lawrence Tech in there with them, Michigan, the national champions from 2 years ago. But Oakland is definitely off to a pretty good start.
No, I see in the West, Hope College is on top. I don't know if they count. Do they count out of conference wins? Because I know they played Aquinas, a D1 team, and they got beat the opening night. But Hope's back on top again. This is their last year as a D3 team. Then Central doesn't have to worry about playing them anymore. It's going to be an interesting transition for them. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
yeah,
I've looked at what Calvin's done. I don't know how the level of competition they've played, but they've outscored their opponents 44-5 in 4 games. That's insane.
Yeah, and I think part of that is just the dominance of those 2 teams. I mean, look, your Knights made the national semifinal a year ago, and they played a really tough game. And Hope likewise is off to a good start as they usually do. And I think, especially for Coach Van Timmerman, he's ready to. I think he's ready to get up to ACHA D1. They've been in D3 for what, 20 plus years?
Yeah.
And I think for them to go out on top would be one of the best things it would give them a boost going into that Division 1 debut a year from now. And I really think after the bitterness of that pool play performance from a year ago, it would certainly be a boost to their confidence.
Boy, I got to tell you, Reagan, you talk about Oakland with a chip on their shoulder, and you got Hope with a chip on their shoulder. That doesn't bode well for the rest of the D3 teams, man.
No, it doesn't, especially with the Dutchmen. Last year was the first time they hadn't made it out of pool play since I want to say since maybe 2019.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because that's right, because that was in Dallas, because I remember that because it was Sioux College, Michigan, Grand Valley, and Fairfield. And that's when Sioux College was like,
oh my goodness,
men playing with boys. They didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that was ugly, but I think you're right.
And now Sioux College's women's team is doing the same thing.
Oh boy, I know it's crazy. Yeah. So some of the other teams you mentioned, Lawrence Tech, they're holding on. Grand Valley, I know they're another team that they've been like the bridesmaid, never the bride for a lot of times. They've gotten to the championship round. They've gotten to the championship game. I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. And that, and I look at a team like Michigan State or like your team, 2-5, but yet, you're playing in such tough competition. It's amazing.
Yeah. And then I think, again, that's what comes when you have some of the top programs in your division. I mean, if you look, Grand Valley and Lawrence Tech just faced off last weekend, and boy, that was one heck of a series, eh?
Yeah.
You had 5-1 Lawrence Tech won on Friday night, and then GV comes back the next night and beats them by 1 goal.
Yeah.
That's just like, I mean, you were looking at that Friday game and you're like, oh, that was just a replay of the national championship game. But how about GV coming back the next night, and they're again led by the Myers brothers, as they have been for the last 4 or 5 years. They're well coached by Dylan Knox. He's really brought that program back to where it was. And I think, again, Grand Valley is another team to watch. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder. After last year, they were the #1 team in the nation down the stretch. In fact, from day one to the final ranking period, they were #1 in the country. And then on the final ranking period, they drop a couple of spots, become the #2 team. They're leapfrogged by LTU. And that was kind of foreshadowing for the national championship. But I think Lawrence Tech was a great team to watch last year. And they're a great team to watch every year, right?
Yeah.
You've got they're really well coached. Ken Gaffney knows his stuff. Great guy. It was honestly great to see them win that national championship last year, knowing how hard Ken Gaffney and his staff worked to get that to bring that program to where they were, or to where they are now.
You know, it's amazing. You know, in the 9 or 10 years that I've been involved covering the ACHA, watching Calvin, you know, they were at the D3 level. They decided to make a jump up to D1 with their teams and then bring in another D3 squad. And, you know, Regan, it's tough because if you're bringing in a D3 squad, you got to start over. And it takes a while. And to watch the work that those programs put in, Grand Valley, you could throw them in with them now with 2 teams. And, you know, they're all successful. Grand Valley at the D1 level is a top 10 ranked team or top 12. And, you know, it's just a testament to how you mentioned it earlier, how good the hockey is here in the state of Michigan, especially at the ACHA level.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes the ACHA so fun, right? Is you get schools that slowly expand their programs over the course of 10, 15 years. And eventually, if you're like GV, you're like Lawrence Tech, you get teams successful at both levels. And especially with how limited the NCAA hockey can be, I think it's really good for the growth and the face of club hockey at whatever level, to have those success stories and be like, hey, we can get a bid to go into NCAA at some point.
You know, and my hat's off to Craig Barnett and, you know, the work that they've done in the last 5 years to really promote this product, especially after COVID, to promote it and, you know, to make it so it's a very good option for these young men and women to be able to play hockey after the juniors, you know, their time limit or whatever, and also at the high school level. And, you know, in the 10 years that I've been covering it, you can tell the competition has exponentially gotten a lot better. The quality of it too. I mean, it's just a different game. I want to ask you, you know, you're familiar with a couple of teams that jumped up to D1. You know, Northwood is off to an 8-1 start at the D1 level. I mean, did you see that coming?
Honestly, I didn't see it coming at all. Northwood last year was about middle of the pack in the ACHA, right with Central Michigan, right with a couple of other kind of mid-level MCHC teams. But even like credit to Joe Cooper. I mean, he played 4 years at Central Michigan. I think CMU kind of missed out. We had the opportunity at some point to get him as a coach behind the bench, but instead he gets the job at Northwood, and he's done such a great job at building that program up, taking them from 2 and 3 years ago. They couldn't even field a team.
Isn't that amazing?
Over in Midland, and the years before that they were bottom of the ACHA Division III, and in a span of 2 years, Cooper has revived that program from dead to a fantastic team in Division I that has the possibility to at least contend for a national tournament spot.
Well, I mean, if they can keep it up, I know the Great
Yeah.
Lakes Collegiate Hockey League, they think they have an auto bid. So, hey, that's how some of these teams get going. You saw it, you know, teams like Oswego State and
Hmm.
Niagara, they get some notoriety, they win their conference and they get in and they win a game at the national tournament.
Hmm.
That's how it starts. And so you mentioned it, we talked about Hope. They're going up to D1 next year. I mean, how long do you think it'll take? No, they might be the exception because to me, they're like the University of Mary. They're just loaded every year. How long do you
Yeah.
think it'll take Chris Van Timmeren's team at the D1 level to be, one of the best?
I mean, and I think it depends on how how that first year goes,
Mm,
because you always, I mean, you always want to get right in and you want to start competing at an early level, which is what any program should strive to
right.
do. But I think having this amount of lead time, knowing you're going to Division 1, kind of allows you to recruit a little bit
Yeah.
longer. Like, say, hey, 2 years from now, yeah, we're a D3 team right now, but 2 years from now we'll be competing for the D1 national or D1 national tournament. So I think with how well coached Hope is and has been since Chris Van Timmeren joined that team, what, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
I think I think they could have a good shot of making the national tournament a year or two down the road.
I that it probably is. It's hard to believe that guy's been coaching for 20 years. And I'm not just saying this. The guy doesn't look like he's aged a year. How in the hell does he do
No.
that, man? I mean, in 20 years, I've gotten so much gray hair. I don't know whether I'm coming or going, man. It's hilarious. But I look back at some of the coaches that are in this Michigan area. You got Chris and you've got Mike Petrusma. You've got Phil Sweeney at Davenport. He's back there. Great to see him there. And, some pedigree here. And it's so
Yeah.
much fun just to talk to them and listen to the stories and listen to how the changes are in this game in the last, couple of decades or whatever. It's however long it's been.
Yeah, and I think, like, even down in Michigan State, Don Headley's
Yes.
been with Michigan State at D3 for how long? And at this point, he's kind of taken a step back over the last couple of years. But
Oh, wait a
it was
minute.
great to
Don't say
what?
that because remember we did that at the Nationals and he said, "Hey, I'm still in charge here." He texted me
I
while
I
he was
I
watching
was
it.
good. I was gonna say he's taking a step back from the coaching role. He's still the general manager
Oh,
there, and
okay.
uh, coming at the start of October, CMU and MSU faced off. We got to play at Munn. That was a ton of fun.
Nice.
And then, second of all, getting to see him that weekend, exchange stories, talk with him. It's always great to talk with the guys that have been in this league
Yeah.
for a long time, because there's a wealth of knowledge that the websites, the stats, the like all the numbers can't
That's
tell
great.
us. It's the personalities, it's the coaches, it's the players over the 30 or 20 plus year history of this league that make it such an interesting thing to follow.
And that's the beauty of it too, is you've got, some of these folks have been here 30 years that have worked with this organization. And, and what I like about it, Reagan, and again, I see it every year, is it's all about the kids. And, but in a lot of this, nobody's getting rich off of this. They do it for the love of the game. And, how much time, how much effort that everybody puts in, from you doing the broadcasting to the players to everybody, the coaches, the administrators. It's just such a love and a passion for this sport. That's why I still do it, and
Yeah.
it's fun to be able to go down there in St. Louis and see a culmination of the effort. But oh my gosh, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of club hockey, is because these kids, uh, the kids and the players and the coaches, all they're all in it because they love it. You're
Yeah,
not getting a scholarship out of this.
right.
Most of these kids aren't, or most of these players aren't going to go more than they aren't going to go more than the ACHA. Maybe they make it. Maybe they go into the Fed. Maybe
Yeah,
some low level minor league hockey. But most of these kids, this is the final show for them. This is the last spot they're going to go before they start playing men's league, and they love it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of club hockey, is because these players play with such passion, play with such energy, because they love the game.
So are you and Central going on a Florida trip this year?
No, but we are going to. We're on 2 showcases. We're going to one in Missouri,
Oh,
the Route
nice.
66 showcase down in Missouri State in Springfield.
Okay.
And then we're playing 3 games. I think we're playing Maryville, Missouri State, and Drury. And then right before the start of the second semester, we're gonna hop on a bus, go down to Chicago, play a couple of games at Northwestern.
Nice.
One against Northwestern, I think Grand Canyon, and then we're playing outdoors against Loyola of Chicago.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So that'll be really fun.
Oh, good for you. And it sounds like it sounds like you've got a busy slate. Regan, in closing, I take a look at, I know the D3 and the women's D2 and the men's D2 rankings haven't come out yet, but I see some of the other rankings in the men's, Adrian again is at the top of the heap. You got Minot State, Nevada, Las Vegas, all the usual suspects are there, and Liberty right up there. Again, in the women's side, you've got, Maryland. Liberty's not there yet. I found out, I talked to Jenna Trubiano from Michigan. The reason they're not there is they haven't played yet. So they're going to be back on top. But Liberty and Adrian are playing this weekend in women's D1. So many fun games to keep an eye on. The competition, again, as I mentioned, every weekend there's such great games at all the levels.
Yeah, and I think it's partly because it's so big. We've got so many games going on at once, and I really think that Liberty again is going to have a fun. They're going to be fun to watch this season. They're going to talk about having a chip on your shoulder.
Oh,
5 straight years. 4 or 5 straight years they won the national title, and they get knocked out last year.
Well, and Arizona State's goalie is back, the one that stonewalled them with 74 saves. Quinn, whatever her last name. Oh gosh, I know Lindsay Ellis is going to get mad at me when I forget her last name all the time. But I just had her on a couple of weeks ago. I got to tell you, talk about a coach that's focused. I've never met a coach more focused than her. And they're ready. They're ready for going over to Italy. And that's the other cool thing about the ACHA. They get 2 national teams. They're going over to Torino, Italy in January. It's just, what an experience for these kids and these coaches to be able to get.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. And we've had a couple of those tournaments over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The what was it?
Well, it's all I know is I keep lobbying for them. I keep telling them they need a couple of credentialed press guys to go over to do play-by-play.
Yeah.
But you know what, Regan? I get a chuckle, and that's about it. So I'm going to keep trying. One of these times, they're going to call me out on it. Then I'm going to have to try to be able to get work off for that. So,
it's hard enough to get work off for the national tournament, eh?
Well, I'm lucky enough. I've been where I've been at for so many years, and it's in March. Nobody wants to take March off, so it's usually pretty easy for me to get that off. And I've got a very understanding wife that lets me do my thing too. So that means a lot. Well, Regan, hey, this has been a treat. Thanks for coming on tonight. I really enjoy this. We'll have to do it again after the holidays when we get some rankings in, and we'll dissect those. Maybe the 1st of February we'll get you on, and we'll get you on for a full hour, and we'll
good.
Go through it. So, all right, Regan, take care.
I'd love to come back on.
Well, I would love that. We'll see you this weekend at Calvin.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. We'll swap some stories and have a few laughs. So, take care. Good luck this weekend with your broadcasts, and we'll see you. And again, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. Thanks for having me. Good luck.
Thank you. Regan Cleeves, he is the voice of Central Michigan hockey, one of our broadcasters that we had on the ACHA or at the ACHA Nationals last year in St. Louis, and a lot of great stories. And again, the Central Michigan Hockey Network, the Chippewa Hockey Network, Club Hockey Network, I beg your pardon. They do a great job. They put, with the video and the audio, the highlights, the shows that they do. I invite you to check out their YouTube channel. Do wonderful work. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to go through those rankings. at the men's that we have for the men's D1 and the women's D1. Then we're going to go through the schedule coming up this weekend and some of the scores that we had. We got some big matchups. We're going to go through those and more. You're watching the ACHA Power Play. It is live right here on 12 Ounce Sports, Dingo TV, channel 217, and the 12 Ounce Sports channel on YouTube.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
Again, can't say it enough about 12ouncesports.com/tickets. We got great tickets, great prices for those games. Major League Baseball, I know it's the World Series. Those might be tough to get, as I mentioned earlier. But we've got the NFL coming up week number 8, I believe it is, or week 7. Let's see. Week 7 of the NFL. No, week 8. Well, those bye weeks throw me off. But we got great seats for those too. College football this weekend, some monster games. The Maylocks game here in Michigan with Michigan State. I know Michigan's not doing real well this year, but this is an important game. It's a rivalry game. Tickets will be available for that. Any other game that you want to go to, we've got it for you right here. The NHL is back in full steam with their regular season. Go to 12ouncesports.com, hit the tickets tab, or go to 12ouncesports.com/tickets. We'll have that. Then we've got the tickets that you want. We are a ticket broker. We don't charge the crazy fees that some of those secondary markets charge. Hey, thanks again to Regan Cleeves for coming on the show here tonight, talking a little MCHC men's Division III hockey at the ACHA level, talking the MCHC, the Michigan Collegiate Hockey Conference, the premier conference in Division III of the ACHA. 15 out of the last 16 national champions have come out of that conference, and Sioux College came out of the North region. So, yeah, it's definitely been the dominant conference, and the state of Michigan's got a target on its back when we get to St. Louis, as you see on the screen, the road to St. Louis. 3 out of the 5 divisions were won by schools from the state of Michigan. Adrian, of course, the men's and women's D1 national champions, and Lawrence Tech, the D3 level. But again, thanks to Regan Cleeves from the Central Michigan Hockey Club Hockey Network. He is the voice of the play-by-play man for Central Michigan Hockey. Very knowledgeable. And I really had a good time talking with him. And you can catch that interview anytime here on 12 Ounce Sports on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that. All right, let's go through the rankings right now in men's Division I. Actually, I might be able to see if I can work my magic on here. Let's see if I can bring that up here. Let's see. Probably not tonight. All right. So I guess I fib, but that doesn't matter. I can go through the rankings right now at the men's D1 level. The defending national champion, Adrian Bulldogs, they're back on top. They've got a record of 3-0-2, so they're ranked number 1. Minot State, they're ranked second with a record of 3-1. Nevada, Las Vegas. All right, I've got to get my glasses on for this. There we go. They're at 2-0. This was before last weekend, by the way, because I know that they may have dropped a game. Ohio was ranked 4th. Jamestown at 5. Liberty at 6. Purdue Northwest at 7. University of Mary at 8. Maryville at 9. Calvin at 10. Niagara at 11. Grand Canyon at 12. Grand Valley at 13. Oswego State at 14. Utah at 15. Pitt at 16. Arizona at 17. Indiana Tech at 18. Missouri State at 19. Central Oklahoma at 20. They're off to a kind of a slow start, but they'll be right there at the end, I got a feeling. Oklahoma at 21. Illinois State at 22. They've played some tough competition here to start the year. That's why they're 2-5-1, but believe me, they've played some rocking competition. Delaware at 23, and Westchester at 24, and Indiana U of Pennsylvania at 25. And at the women's D1 level, let's go through the top 15 there. The top 10, of course, go to the national tournament. You've got Midland, the number one team in the land right now. They're undefeated at 6-0. Maryville at 6-1. Minot State 3-2-1. They're ranked third. McKendree at number 4 at 8-1. Michigan at number 5. Arizona State at 6. Adrian College, the defending champs, they're at 7. Lindenwood at 8. Dearborn at 9. Indiana Tech is at 10. Jamestown right now is 11th. Niagara is 12th. Colorado is 13th. Michigan State at 14. And Rhode Island at 15. And again, a name that's conspicuous with their absence, Liberty. They're not ranked right now. They haven't played yet. They're opening up their play this weekend, and they're going right into the fire, taking on the defending national champions, that being Adrian. So that ought to be a dandy contest. So we'll get into the schedule here in a moment, but there's your top 15. As we mentioned, the top 10 for the ACHA women's, that's who go to the national tournament. They play a bracketed. The top 2 teams get a bye right to the quarterfinals. Then 3 through 10 play kind of a double elimination first couple of games to get into the to work their way through their bracket. So if you finish 1 or 2, that's huge. You don't have to worry about it. It's single elimination for them, but they don't have to play in that those 3 versus 10 matchups. So, all right, let's take a look at some of the big games going on throughout the land coming up this weekend. We've got some monster games at the D1 men's level and the women's D1. We talked about Adrian, ranked number 1 in the men's D1. They're going to be taking on Ohio in a home-and-home this weekend, Thursday and Friday. Number 7, Purdue Northwest. They're going to be having a home-and-home with Calvin Thursday and Saturday. Number 3, UNLV. They're going to take on, or check that, number 4, UNLV. They're going to take on number 17, Arizona this weekend. Utah is taking on 20th ranked Central Oklahoma. Niagara and Maryville going to be doing battle this weekend. Oklahoma at 21, they're going to take on 19th ranked Missouri State. Then you've got Minot and Mary. These 2 teams, neighbors, if you will, in the Dakotas. They're going to battle each other this weekend. Always a huge, huge weekend when those 2 teams get together. I have a feeling we'll see both of them at the national tournament, but the conference matchup there, it's, hockey is life out there as it is in a lot of places, but it's just such a rivalry, such a fun rivalry with Minot and Mary. Women's D1 coming up this weekend. Michigan and Michigan State, number 5 and number 14. Wow, what a coincidence. They're playing in football on Saturday. They're going to renew the rivalry this weekend as well, number 5 versus number 14. We talked about Arizona State. They're going to be in Missouri this weekend. They're going to take on number 2 Maryville. They're going to take on number 8 Lindenwood and number 4 McKendree this weekend. So yeah, competition. That's just going to bolster their their level or their strength of schedule, and that's going to do nothing but help them when it comes to tournament time. You've got Jamestown, number 11. They're going to take on number 4 McKendree. We talked about Adrian and Liberty. They're going to do battle this weekend. That's going to be a fun matchup. Number 1 Midland, number 3 Minot State. The powerhouses right now of the women's D1. That's going to be a fun matchup to keep an eye on as well. And again, we talked about Arizona State with their gauntlet this weekend with Maryville, with Lindenwood, and with McKendree. Some of the matchups at the men's D2 level. You've got Bryn Athyn and Westchester. Good to see Bryn Athyn back at the D2 level at the ACHA. Way back when they were a powerhouse at the D3 level. They tasted D3 at the NCAA level. Good to see them with a team in D2. Cincinnati's going to take on Ohio U at the D2 level. TSCHL league matchup. Those 2 will figure into the national tournament at the end of the year. Jamestown and Sioux College are going to do battle. 2 ranked teams, I'm sure, once the D2 rankings come out next month. We'll keep an eye on them. Michigan and Michigan State at the men's D2 level. They're going to do battle as well. Maryville and Southern Illinois, Miami and Liberty, Indiana and Kentucky. 2 teams that are very familiar with each other. Conference matchups there should be fun. And then Sioux College going to take on Marion and Wisconsin this weekend too. So a big weekend of games for the Cougars of Sioux College. Men's D3, Hope and Michigan State going to lock up again in the MCHC. Calvin and Central, we talked about it. You'll get to hear myself and Regan on Saturday side by side doing each other, doing our own broadcast, but that ought to be a fun game to keep an eye on. Lawrence Tech and Miami at the D3 level, the defending champs Lawrence Tech. Colorado School of the Mines and Air Force. Air Force is a team that always gets to the national tournament. They're always ranked, always do a good showing. I know they want to get to that next step, get to the Final Four, get past the Michigan stranglehold. So we'll keep an eye on that. And Adrian and Trine going to hook up for a weekend set. And at the women's D2 level, some games of note. Liberty and Robert Morris going to do battle. Army and Sacred Heart, they're always in the national tournament scene. Villanova, they're always on top, it seems like. They're going to take on Penn, and Adrian is going to take on Niagara. And some games from last weekend, if I can find my scores here. Just some matchups. Well, I guess I did. Again, here we go. I tell you, some of the games from last weekend, we talked about Lawrence Tech when Reagan was talking about at the D3 level. They split with Grand Valley. Big matchups there. Arizona State split with number 3 UNLV, 6-2 and 5-2. Mary over Missouri State, 3-2 and 4-3 in overtime. D3 Michigan, they went down to Florida Gulf Coast and swept them. That's no easy task there, 5-4 and 3-1. It was 18th ranked Indiana Tech with a sweep over Cleary in Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference action. Liberty took care of Maryville 4-0. And it was Minot State over Ohio 4-2. Jamestown as well beat Ohio. So a tough weekend for the Bobcats, playing two very highly ranked teams. Utah took a couple over Grand Canyon. We'd mentioned D1, Northwood. They're off to an 8-1 start. Great start so far. And last weekend, number 7, Purdue Northwest split with Davenport. Watch out for Davenport. I think they're up and coming at the D1 level. They, of course, have some D1 pedigree as well. So, all right, that's going to do it for this edition of the ACHA Power Play. I want to thank Regan Cleeves for coming on and talking a little D3 hockey and reminiscing about last year's national tournament. A lot of fun talking with Regan. And I want to thank you, the viewer, for inviting us into your homes, on your computers, however you watched us around the world here on the ACHA Power Play, here on 12 Ounce Sports and Dingo TV, Channel 217. We'll be back with another edition of the ACHA Power Play real soon. Until then, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. See you later. Have a good weekend. So long, everybody. Take care. Goodbye.